As we've come out of the full moon in Rohini and gone into Margashira waning gibbous, given that Rohini is serpent lingam and Margashira is serpent yoni, I really wanted to get into the nature of envy and jealousy as something that we all need to collectively release, because Rohini can really get envy bad. Like Margashira can get it as well, but Rohini can really get envy in a major way. And the fact that it was a high up supermoon in which that nature of jealousy and envy was kind of swirling around in a lot of us, I feel like it's a really good opportunity to use this waning moon to release envy and jealousy. But before I do that, I have to explain envy and jealousy by psychologist Maria Perry's definition of envy and jealousy. Okay. So basically, what she deems to be envy and jealousy, the first thing, envy, is when you want to destroy somebody's entire life and take over their lives, like just completely take it over. Jealousy is where you have specific things that you want that the other person appears to have, right? You want what they have. So jealousy and envy differ in scope, and they differ in the nature of how insidious it is. With jealousy, hatred is a little bit more open. There's more open challenge. There's more, direct conflict. It's not always direct because, jealousy is still very cunning and very passive aggressive in its way, but it's more directly aggressive. I found jealousy is more directly aggressive. With envy, it's a little bit more deep seated than that. Envious people, like another young lady was explaining in a reel, will mirror and copy and study before it destroys the target. So the reason why I connect this to Rohini and Margashira, and especially Rohini, is because Rohini in particular, even though it drains light and therefore has its own star quality that people love to see and people love to be in front of, Rohini has this thing where it envies the stars that, oh, I'm about to cook here. Okay, so you know how the moon, the full moon has the sun's light reflected on it, right? Right. So Rohini, in much the same way, wants to steal the light, wants to reflect the light from a star that is brighter than itself. That's what Rohini wants to do. That's where Rohini's, drives, like some of their drives come from as a nakshatra. Now, it doesn't mean that Rohini people are naturally jealous across the board. That's not how that works. But as a nakshatra and the effects it has on us in particular, something that I didn't talk about was that our jealousy would come out more. It would be more of a thing where our jealousy and envy might come out. And this is a wonderful opportunity for us to explore not only what we are jealous and envious of, but where that jealousy and envy comes from. Now, I've explained that jealousy is about wanting specific things and envy is about wanting it all. I've explained how jealousy is more direct and envy is more subtle, but they both have a serpentine nature of passive aggression, of circling around the target and slowly crushing the target. So that's how they both operate, okay? And even though envy and jealousy show up in far worse manifestations in men than in women, and we don't talk about this, it seems to be more common in women because envy and jealousy come from the heart chakra, right? It comes from the heart. It comes from the emotional center. Now, this is where I get into where envy and jealousy actually comes from. It comes from grief. Stay with me. Now, I've already explained that Rohini, when it feels emotions, and even Margashira, when Serpent Yoni and Serpent Lingam feel emotions, they feel it deeply. There's an anxiety to the serpent lingam and the serpent yoni, which means that when they feel one emotion, they feel it to its fullest capacity. And this is especially the case with Rohini, right? So when Rohini feels grief from not being listened to, from not feeling acknowledged, even from not being spoiled as much as they normally are, that grief can be extremely deep seated. And that is what can give rise to both envy and jealousy. There's grief behind those emotions, which is something that a lot of people don't understand. It can have, when you see somebody that you admire or you see somebody whose life you want, the grief can come from, now I want you to pay attention to this. The grief can come from you just about missing out on the same things that another person has that is similar to you. Let me explain. So you have somebody that's similar to you, that's had a similar life to you, but the trajectory of their lives have turned out to be a lot more different than yours, meaning that there were some small changes and some small differences that allowed them to succeed where you failed. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about grief. It's the grief of knowing that you could have been a couple of steps away from being the same as the other person who is almost identical to you. You could have been like them had it not been for specific circumstances in your life. You see, a lot of people think that jealousy is automatically about believing in your limitations and not wanting to do the work to get around them, but that's only part of the story. The other part of the story is that it's a yet so near and yet so far situation, which really, really gives rise to the fact that envious people and jealous people can really lack humility. That's another part of this. Like, envious people and jealous people either lack humility, or that humility has corroded in on itself and turned into rampant insecurity. And that rampant insecurity comes from, I was so near and yet so far, because look at what this person is able to do with a similar story to mine, with a similar path to mine, in a similar situation to mine. How am I in the same position as this person who seems to be so much more talented than me, so much more better than me? That means there's only like a few small things that I need to do, but I don't know what those small things are. So you know what? I'm just going to take from this person. I'm just going to take from this person. And that, I feel, is what we need to let go of as a collective. That's what I feel like we need to let go of. And that's what I feel like will have us making the wrong choices when it comes to the gifts that Rohini bestows upon us. Because we're going to get everything that we want, but because we can see other people in a similar situation to us, or who have lived similar lives to us that appear to be doing better than we are, we can become overtaken with jealousy and envy and this desire to crush and obliterate whoever appears to cause that jealousy within us. For the record, Ashlesha is also a serpentine nakshatra, but not because of the animal yoni, but because of, the nagars are associated with it. And that's a serpentine. Those are serpentine deities. So just FYI, Ashlesha too. But yeah, jealousy and envy, I feel like are perfect themes to focus on in terms of what we need to release from our lives. We need to release this idea that everybody needs to be the same and everybody needs to be on the same level. We need to let this go. And it's not just the envious and jealous people who need to let it go. It's the people on the other side of the curtain who know that, they're slightly more elevated than other people, who know, they might know a couple of things more than other people. They also have to let go of this idea that everybody should meet their level. So it's about two things, like the full supermoon in Rohini which is happening within a snake year, by the way, because we're still in the year of the snake, and we're still in the number 9 year and the year of the snake. So this is now a perfect time for us to say to ourselves, you know what? Not everybody needs to be on the same level of each other. As each other. That's one. The second thing is that we need to find our own voice. And it starts with expressing our emotions, expressing how we truly feel. Because again, envy and jealousy, from what I have observed, comes from grief. Grief comes from an unbalanced or weak heart chakra. It can also come from loneliness. It can also come from profound loneliness. But that profound loneliness is so complicated because it doesn't just come from not having people around. It doesn't even come from always having the wrong people around, but it also comes from not knowing what truly makes you happy. It can come from not knowing what your true passion is, what it is you're willing to go the extra mile for. So not knowing any of these things can also cause you to have envy and jealousy, because if you don't know who you are, of course you're going to want someone else's life. Of course, you're going to want somebody else's talent. Of course, you're going to want to steal joy from somebody else if you don't know who you are. And of course, you're not going to know who you are if you can't tell the difference between the things that you've been given that elevate you as a person and the things that you've been given that degrade you as a person. Of course, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. And that's where envy and jealousy can come from. And that's what can rot and fester inside us. So I think, with a number 9 year and with a Rohini full supermoon, okay, I think now is the perfect time for us to release our jealousy and our envy. And then when we've done that, we accept our grief. We accept what we've lost. We come to terms with it. We come to terms with the fact that the world will not meet our needs exactly. And even when we are given everything that we want, not everything that comes to us is going to fulfill us. And like I said in both parts 1 and parts 2 of my Rohini reading, it's about recognizing that, it's about recognizing where we will never, recognizing where our true joys and passions are, and recognizing that we will never truly be fulfilled if we can't seek those things out ourselves. We have to challenge our strengths, battle test our strengths. Like I said before, we also have to be discerning as to which pleasures in life elevate us as people. It's not about cutting out pleasure. It's not about cutting out what your desires are. It's about ascertaining which desires of yours are actually important. Because when you don't do that, that's when envy takes over. That's when jealousy takes over. And that comes from grief. And like I said, grief is not just a thing where you suffer a massive bereavement or a major move or a breakup. Bereavement can come from the simple thing of you being given everything that you want, but not knowing which truly makes you happy. It can come from that too. And it can make you think that the only way for you to be happy is for somebody else to be miserable. And that's not the case. It can make you think that the only way for you to be happy is to drain from other people. But this is a perfect opportunity for us to let that go. Say it with me. I open my heart to love. I open my heart to unconditional love. I accept losses in my life. I accept the grief. I accept my denial of my grief. I accept the bargaining that I make in the face of that grief. I accept my anger within that grief. I accept my sadness within that grief. And I accept my acceptance within that grief. I accept my emotions as they are. I do not try to change them. I do not try to amend them. I do not try to fix them. I accept them as they are. I let them express themselves. I let them go through the motions. I do not act upon them, but I instead observe them and let them speak without judgment. I release my grief. I release my need to have what other people have because I find my own voice and my own identity. I release the need to have other people's lives rather than my own. I release the need to have other people's lives rather than my own. I instead gain a sense of pleasure in my life, and I renew my perception based on the wisdom of what my emotions are truly telling me. I open my heart to love. That's the prayer. You can amend it however you want to amend it. But replace envy and jealousy with love. Love for yourself, love for your life, love for your emotions, and love for your body. Because if you don't learn to radically accept your emotions and your body for what they are and your life for what it is, envy, jealousy, obsession, all of these things can run rife in your life. And that is not something that you want. This is a great opportunity for us to all let that go. That was a special message from Empress Justice. And yeah, I'll see you in the next reading. Bye bye now.